Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, March 10th, and this is episode number 52. This week was loaded, with multiple showcase events, a bevy of reveals and release dates, and even a few slight delays. There was so much in the week we haven't even shared everything on the site yet, though we will, I promise. We're kicking things off this week by taking a look at the latest controller offering from Xbox. For the third month in a row, Xbox are releasing a new color controller into stores. This time it's called Velocity Green. Yes, today, hey Tabs, today is Mario Day. If you're American, it is March 10th. If you live in most of the rest of the world, it is not Mario Day because the date is in a different format. With the Xbox controller though, it is the same green that you can actually get on Design Lab. So here's a bit of a close-up of it. The green itself, as I said, it's the exact same green that is on Xbox Design Lab, so you can get it now. There you can customize the bits and pieces. This follows on from the deep pink controller that was released in January, and then the Lunar Shift controller that was released last month, which is sort of a purple color. This is also, they also did the, sorry, Stellar Shift was last month, the Lunar Shift was last year. So it's just a green, controller. It's a very nice green controller, but it's just a green controller. There's nothing overly fancy about it. If you do go on Design Lab, you can even make the D-pad match the green along with the triggers and the bumpers. By default on the Velocity Green that they are selling in the stores, it will be black. So black D-pad, black triggers, black bumpers, and then a white back. So you can actually make the full controller green if you go via Design Lab. The price difference is negligible. On Design Lab, the standard $95 for the base of everything. But if you make metallic colors or you start adding rubberized grips and other bits and pieces, you can add to it. But the overall price is probably better if you just go through Design Lab if you want everything green. I'm sort of on board with all the stuff that Xbox is doing controller-wise. I like that they're, doing different colors, not just doing, different shades of red or different shades of blue. I do wish, though, they weren't doing them, every month. We had 2 or 3 towards the last couple of months of last year, and we're already at 3 again in the third month of this year, so hopefully they taper back off, and this is just sort of a backlog from COVID, that they wanted to do. The controller, as I said, it's $95, $94.95 Australian dollars for it. It will be available in stores on March 24th, so 2 weeks from now. If you do go via Design Lab, it'll probably take about the same amount of time for that one to turn up as well. Moving away from controllers, we're going to talk about the movies, and specifically that the Super Mario Brothers movie got its final trailer today. So we knew this was coming. Nintendo announced this direct a couple of weeks ago. This is the Super Mario Brothers movie directs have been the only ones that have had a lead time, and that is because Nintendo are working with Universal Pictures for this. So media for movie distribution is very, very different to games distribution. So Nintendo can't just say they're doing a direct and then 2 days later do it. There's a lot more that has to go into movies because of deals with cinemas, and then obviously different countries, different parts of the countries, and then different cinema owners within those parts of the countries. They're all very, very different. So because of that restriction, they have to sort of give them a heads up that this is happening, just so they're aware that it is coming and all that sort of stuff. I won't play the trailer here just in case people don't want to be spoiled on it. We did get a really cool look at Rainbow Road in the direct itself. The main voice cast was there, so Chris Pratt and Charlie Day were there, who are Mario and Luigi respectively. Keegan-Michael Key was there as Toad, and then Seth Rogen was there for Donkey Kong. Then we sort of, the camera swapped around to Jack Black and Anya Taylor-Joy, who are Bowser and Peach respectively. And then after the trailer, we got a quick, not really an insight, but there was a little brief moment from the film's directors about what they're doing, what they were aiming for with Rainbow Road. To me, Rainbow Road is very Mad Max in its overall appeal. I see that, and I just think it's a very colourful Mad Max scenario. So the movie is launching here in Australia on Wednesday, April 5th. So we're about 3 3 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away. That is obviously the Wednesday before the Easter long weekend. So if you are looking for something to do that weekend with your kids, that obviously will be around. Tickets are on sale at various cinemas around the country, so do check with your locals if you want to pre-order a seat. I did notice earlier this morning too that there are 3D releases for the movie. So if you are someone who's looking to have, to watch the movie in 3D, that does exist. Just check with your local cinema on that specific information. Randomly throughout the week, there was no news that this was happening, but Wargroove 2 was announced. So Chucklefish, they're the developers behind the original game. They have announced that Wargroove 2 is coming. It is coming to Switch and PC later this year. No word on if any other platforms are getting it at this stage, just those two. We do have a trailer for it. It's a very narrative-heavy trailer. Like there's somebody talking about it over the top. But basically, it's sort of losing sort of the more traditional war type aspects and going for pirates. There's still obviously the same battle mechanics and all that there, but the big thing is that it's now pirates versus conquistadors and a bit of fantasy. So the new area is called Urania, and a faction has unearthed forbidden relics capable of catastrophic consequences. So it's all there. The game will offer up the full suite of map tools that sort of made the first game a bit of a standout hit. There's no ETA on when it will release. It is, as I said, coming to Switch and PC. The the PC version via Steam can be wishlisted. So when they do put a date on that, you'll be told about it. But there's no set time frame on when it will release. Interestingly, though, the developer isn't Chucklefish on this one. So Chucklefish developed it and published the first game, but the development this time is being done by a German studio called Robotality. And basically, they're just, there's a quote from them saying how happy they are to be working on the series and, basically taking whatever the team did in the first game and building above that. I do appreciate what they're trying to do, making it a bit of a series. I just wish there was maybe more done for the first game. It sort of came out, did its bit, and then sort of moved on. It was a very quick, there wasn't really any sort of life for it remaining. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it would have been nice to have seen them keep that going a little bit longer, rather than just sort of abandoning it and moving on to another game. But that's the way these things go. Moving on here, though, we're going to talk about some Game Pass editions. So we actually got a new slew of games revealed as coming to Xbox Game Pass, or Game Pass for both Xbox, PC, and cloud. Some of these games are now available already. So Guilty Gear Strive released the day this news broke about these games. This was the debut on Xbox for it. So it does exist elsewhere, but this is the first time it's come to Xbox. Available now through cloud are both Dead Space 2 and Dead Space 3. These games have been available through Game Pass. They are backwards compatible on Xbox One, so if you do have the 360 digital copies or disc copies, you can put them in your consoles and play them now. But they're just now being supported via the cloud, so you'll be able to stream them to your mobile phone or other tablet or computer if you wish. Next week, we'll see the release of Valheim hit game preview. It's still in early access on PC. This is just another platform for it. Civilization 6 will be coming to both console, PC, and cloud on March 16th. So you'll be able to play Sid Meier's Civilization 6 on the go if you don't have a Switch, because it's already there on Switch. Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom The Prince's Edition is coming on the 21st for both console and PC. What's interesting is that the Prince's Edition was the Switch release from a year or so ago. The game did obviously hit the PlayStation platforms initially. The Switch did get the port. It was the Prince's Edition. This is just now that version coming to Xbox. Of course, with games coming, there are games leaving. Paradise Killer, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, F1 2020, and a few others are all being removed on the 15th of March. So there's still 5 days for that. And as always, if you do pick those up, if you do buy them, I should say, before they leave the service, you get a 20% discount. I am happy that Xbox are keeping the amount of games going, with these things. They sort of do 2, sometimes 3, updates a month where they're adding more games to the service and obviously taking some away. I kind of wish though that they were just doing sort of one reveal about, hey, these are the games coming out this month to Game Pass, right? It could be that, they need to sign deals and all that still, so maybe they're not aware of the game that will be launching on the 30th of the month, so to speak. But I just feel like, they'd sort of get more oomph if they were just doing one big reveal. I'm not saying they need to, I'm just saying I think they could be doing it a little bit better than just, 4 or 5 games here or there. PlayStation obviously do one update a month for their catalog. It's usually around the 12th or 13th of the month, and then they land on the 15th. We'll see, if Xbox change anything up. I doubt they will, but it'd be nice to see. Moving on from there, we did get word this week that EA Sports PGA Tour is going to see a little bit of a delay, just in order to polish up the game a bit more. So initially the game was set to release this month. The news of the delay broke like the day after I published the Gamers of March article, so it is still in there saying it's coming out this month. They've delayed it essentially 3 weeks, pushing it from its planned March 23rd, 24th or whatever it was, to April 7th. The full statement just says that EA Sports PGA Tour will now launch on the week of the Masters tournament, with an early access release on Tuesday, April 4, and the full release on Friday, April 7th. Creating an authentic golf experience has always been our goal, and this small shift in release dates allows us to add a few final touches to the game that we're very excited to deliver to all of you, including updates to some favorite courses to reflect 2023 designs. I don't have any particular issue with games being delayed. I would rather a game be delayed in order for them to develop, everything to the best of their abilities. I do question these, I'll call them micro delays. Obviously, for years now, we've been seeing games release and, there's a day one patch, right? A game will go gold a month before it releases, so it can go to the factory and be printed onto disc and all that sort of stuff. But, the developers can still work on it, so there's always a day one patch of things. Obviously, there's also a bit of a negative connotation to releasing a bad game now, with Cyberpunk having sort of proven that, even the most anticipation for a game ever will not dissuade people from calling you out if you release a bad game. So, I understand their reason for a delay, and I fully support them delaying the game. What I'm not a fan of, as I said, are these micro delays. A few extra weeks, obviously, I don't know their schedule on how they prioritize bug fixes or, polishing passes. But a few extra weeks isn't going to be, the thing that, breaks the bank. So it's entirely possible that it could, they could make some significant changes in that time, right? It could literally just be, updating the course designs to match the 2023 schedule, right? Which is one of the things they said they wanted to do. And that's all well and good, but if you're going to delay the game, it has to feel like it's a valid reason, and delaying it, 3 weeks for, the tiniest bit of polish, and then launching it inside the week that, the Masters kicks off in America, it doesn't feel like it's a valid reason. It feels like it's under-delivering, what it should be. I'm not saying, again, that, a small delay isn't worth it. What I'm saying is if your delay is small, you really need to be able to justify it, and I don't think their justification in this instance is valid. There's no reason that a game gets delayed to better align with a real life event, right? Obviously, Nintendo delayed Advance Wars last year because, their game was about, a Russia-like country invading another country, which was a very real-world event that was taking place. So they decided to delay that. That's what I would call a valid delay. Delaying your game just so you launch it at the same time that a tournament takes place, that's not valid to me. That's just you trying to cash in on things and hope that nobody really calls you out on it. This is their first game in 8 years in the golfing space. At the moment, because this is not out yet, the only major golf series is being done by HB Studios for 2K under the PGA Tour 2K23 branding at the moment. They just launched a new season a couple of weeks back. So, there's no reason that these guys can't get the game out, especially given how much they claim, this is the premier golf game already. There is obviously that rumor too that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is going to get a significant delay. And by significant delay, the report is a couple of months. If that is the case, cool. A lot of people were, when I saw that, they were, commenting that they're hoping that this delay is purely to make sure that things are the gameplay is better. And, breaking people's expectation bubbles there, delays for a few months is not enough time to rebuild the entire game with a different gameplay mechanic. So if that game is delayed, it will just be for polishing, and making small changes here and there, right? The whole game's not going to change. But yeah, I could talk, in greater detail about delays and what I think of them, but we'll save that for another time. Moving away from that, during the week, we also had the Paradox Interactive Showcase. There was, a lot in there. Some of them weren't really things that I know much about, so I'm just going to call out the one big game, and that is that City Skylines 2 has been announced. So City Skyline is probably the most well-known city building game around these days. We talked about, the Anno series last week. That's been a very PC exclusive, series. There hasn't really been anything on consoles until this upcoming one next week. But the City Skyline series, did go to PlayStation and Xbox and Switch. The Xbox and PlayStation versions have had significant upgrades, including, current gen console boosts. There's been expansion packs after expansion packs adding in new features, new functions, new modes. And even so far as there's a VR version of it, so you can build your city in VR should you desire to. So it is a very popular series. People do love it. The game is initially made over in Europe, but the actual console versions, so the Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation versions, were all ported down by Tantalus Media or Keywords Melbourne here in Australia. So we have a bit of a claim to fame on that game. In terms of information, there's really not much for it. We got a sort of announcement trailer. A lot of the stuff they showed off here isn't, in-engine. Isn't gameplay. It's all just sort of a cinematic-esque type presentation on things. We do know it's coming to PC, PlayStation, Xbox later this year. If you're on Switch and you've played the heck out of City Skylines on Switch, the second game is not making its way to that platform, which is not surprising because City Skylines on Switch was a very, very poor game initially in terms of optimization. It just suffered considerably. So this is it's more City Skylines. There'll be more features, more seasons and utilities and all that sort of stuff. So it's just something to look forward to. As I said, though, there is no set date for it. They are aiming for a 2023 release. Will they hit it? Honestly, who could say? One thing I need to clarify, though, is I said it's coming for Xbox and PlayStation. It's current gen only, so it's Xbox Series X and S and PlayStation 5 only. So if you've been playing City Skylines on PS4 or Xbox One, the sequel is not coming to you. It is a purely next gen experience. So just be aware of that one. Right now we're going to move into just a couple of highlights from the Capcom Spotlight that took place earlier this morning. So there was the Level 5 event last night, the Nacon event this morning, the Mario Direct, or the Mario Movie Direct, and then the Capcom Spotlight. So it's been a busy sort of 12 hours there. There was obviously a lot within the Capcom Spotlight. We got more information about the what's the name of it? Mega Man collection, specifically about how all that's coming into effect with, adding in like the 100% Buster mode, basically just, will let you 1 or 2 hit most enemies to sort of remove any real challenge if you just want to play it for the story. The later games in the series had a bunch of cards in Japan that you could make use of. They're all being digitized to be able to make use of them there as well. But the 3 things that we want to focus on are Resident Evil, Exoprimal, and Ghost Trick. So Resident Evil 4 obviously is coming out in 2 weeks. Literally this time in 2 weeks, people will be playing it. The state of play a couple of weeks ago, Capcom, showed off this new trailer. They said, hey, a demo is coming. Then last week, Capcom said, hey, we've got a spotlight event happening next week. And I said back then that there would be a demo released during it, and that was the case. Capcom did, however, change things up, and they made a big sort of decision, an improvement there. That is that the demo, which is being called the Chainsaw Demo, I can just play this here. The Chainsaw Demo is actually going to be timeless. So generally speaking, Capcom demos will say, hey, you've got 2 hours in this demo, in this area. You can play it as many times as you like, but once you hit that 2 hours, you're done. You can't jump back into the demo. Sometimes they'll turn around and say that, you can have 5 attempts at a demo, right? So they're generally quite restrictive in how they let you approach these things. That is not the case in this instance. The demo is timeless, so there's no limit on the time that you can play in it. So if you do, want to download it, because it is available now for all the platforms the game's coming to, you can jump in and just enjoy, running around the village, dealing with the chainsaw guy, roundhouse kicking all the villagers and all that sort of stuff for as long as you want over the next 2 weeks. There is no end date for the demo. Sometimes these things will be available for a limited time and then they get taken away. There's been nothing about that mentioned. We'll get to level 5 in a minute, Tabs. So yeah, this is nothing about the demo being removed after 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So at this instance, it was sticking around for a while, but if you do want to check that out, that is there for you. Moving on to another game that we hadn't seen anything for in a while, we got a release date and a lot of details for Exoprimal. So Exoprimal is the anthem for Capcom. And by anthem, I don't mean like the song that they're going to cheer to. I mean the BioWare game anthem. It is an online-only, multiplayer-focused game where you jump in giant exosuits and then slaughter waves upon waves of dinosaurs. If you're an animal lover, this is probably not the game for you, but they are digital dinosaurs, so you might be okay. So we learned during the showcase that Exoprimal will release for all its platforms on July 14th. So that's PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. It will also launch day one into Game Pass. So if you have an Xbox Game Pass or a PC Game Pass subscription, this game will be available to play on those platforms for all members there. During the trailer, which I won't show because there's a bit of blood in it, there were 2 new exosuits shown off, giving you more variety on how you want to play. So there's the tank, there's the speedy, there's the the real damage dealer and all that sort of stuff. They also confirmed that next weekend, so March 17th through to the 22nd, there will be an open beta for the game. So you'll be able to download it and play through a variety of modes. Some are focused on solo, some are focused on multiplayer. The main reason for the beta is so that they can test out the matchmaking for crossplay, because the game is full crossplay. So if you have it on PC and your mate has it on Xbox or PlayStation, you can still play together and take down waves of dinosaurs as you try and undo this time loop and Leviathan. The only thing that's really, and I say this not because it's thing, but the only thing that's stupid about this is that Capcom revealed during the event that in order to play this game and even the beta, you need a Capcom ID. Street Fighter 6 also requires a Capcom ID. This was a service, this was a requirement that launched last year when Resident Evil Reverse launched. And it is basically an account that Capcom have that lets you play their games online. So existing games like Monster Hunter Rise, which the expansion for that's coming to Xbox and PlayStation in April, those do not require a Capcom ID. At least not yet. They're not said they're going to put those in there. But going forward, it looks like all games with a multiplayer component will require a Capcom ID to play them. Now, I don't care that, they want to have an ID system for their games. The problem is that they're still using the technology, the infrastructure for PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live and all that. So all the servers are still being run by others. So in order to play Exoprimal on PlayStation 5, first you have to buy the game, right? And as it's a multiplayer focused title, you have to then pay Sony for the privilege of playing the game online. All right, so you've got your game, and you're paying your $100 a year for PlayStation Plus. You then have to create a Capcom ID and link your PlayStation account to the Capcom ID. If you don't do that, you can't play this game that you've already paid your access to play online. There are also some weird restrictions with Capcom ID. If you delink your accounts, if you take the Capcom ID off your PlayStation account or vice versa, you can't link another PlayStation account to that Capcom ID. Your Capcom ID, once it's assigned to an account, either Steam, Xbox, or PlayStation, it can only ever be relinked to that same account. You cannot link it to a different Xbox or PlayStation or Steam account. And then if your Xbox account has been linked to a Capcom ID, you can't create a new Capcom ID and link it to that one, to your existing Xbox account. Honestly, it is stupid and pointless, and I do not understand why Capcom have made this decision. If there was no requirement for online, with Xbox or PlayStation, and your console was just connected and you could just play, I could understand it at that point. So, obviously Steam's different because you have to have a Steam account to access the library, right? So all these things require accounts anyway. So this is just a secondary account to play a game that you already have to have an account for on the platform you're playing it on. I can't make heads or tails of this decision. It just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe somebody else will be able to explain it. I don't think it's explainable. Again, it's not something that you have to pay for. It is free, so creating it, it's not going to take much time. You can create it now and link it and all that, so you're good to go. My issue is just with the why, not the how, but the why. Why does this need to exist? What benefits does it provide me as a player if I create a Capcom ID? And if Capcom just say it so they can track people playing the game, so yeah, but you can do that via the tools that PlayStation and Xbox and all that have now anyway. So I can't find the justification as to why this is good. But who knows? Maybe that'll change. Maybe people will tell me something different that, once they point out, the reason why, it'll make sense to me. But for now, it doesn't make sense at all. It has issues tabs. It is not, again, it's just unnecessary, and I think it's just more so because they wanted to. Again, if there was no existing account requirement on Xbox or PlayStation or Steam, and you could just download the games and play them online without needing an account, it would make sense. But it doesn't. It doesn't make sense to me that you have to have these things linked, right? I was playing a game for preview recently, and I can't tell you the name of it. But when I jumped into it, it said, "Hey, link your Epic account for extra features." And I'm thinking, this isn't a game made by Epic, right? This is a game made by another company, and it's on a different platform. It wasn't played through the Epic Game Store, and I was just watching it, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me why you would prompt me to do this. So I hit cancel because I wasn't going to do it, and it let me through. There was no issues at all. So I'm just confused on duplication of accounts. Like, what's their benefit, essentially? Moving away from that, because I will get very ranty, we also got today the release date for Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. So this is another one that was announced back in February during the Nintendo Direct, and back then we just got told it was in the Northern Hemisphere it was a summer release. For us down here it was a winter release. We now know that release date is actually June 30th. So the game itself, it's the same information that we got back in February. There's nothing sort of different there. There is a deluxe edition. If you pre-order it, you get a couple of extra songs and some bonus, I'll call them borders, if you will, that you can put around the images, because even though they've HDified the graphics, the HDified comes from the mobile port, not from the them redoing everything fresh. So originally this game was on the DS. When they ported it to mobile, they redid the graphics for that, and obviously back then, the iPad was sort of more square and anything because they wanted to fill the screen. So when you play this version of the game on consoles, it will just deliver the same sort of boxy experience, not a true widescreen. So that's sort of there. It does offer touchscreen support if you're playing it on the Switch, which is something that hadn't sort of confirmed before the event. But again, it's the same game that's been played before, just with some snappier visuals and new music essentially. So when I say new music, it's rearranged versions of the 37 tracks from the game. If you do pick up the deluxe edition, you get a couple of bonus tracks. There's also a new song that was created by the Ace Attorney series composer Masakazu Sugimori, because Ghost Trick was the game that was made before the Ace Attorney series was created by the same creator. So there's some new music to enjoy for that. But yeah, it's just more so with the fact that we got a release date on this one. Not that this was expected any later than sort of June or early July. Mostly because we tend not to get games that release in July. It tends to be the month of nothing. January used to be a month of nothing, but then they changed their minds on that thing, and we got a whole bunch of additional stuff from there. Usually the January stuff is the overflow from the start of the end of the year before. Moving into the level 5 stuff from last night, I've pulled up the article here from Vooks.net. I said I haven't had a chance to write it up yet, but we got a bunch of information. So we got a new trailer for Megaton Musashi Wired, which is a sort of updated version of Megaton Musashi. This game is coming to Switch, PlayStation 4, 5, and Xbox. It's a mech fighting game, very much in the style of like Astral Chain, if you've played Astral Chain on Switch from Platinum. So it's that sort of style of combat. It's very fast, very fluid, but you're in mech suits. I don't know if this is the trailer that has it, but I do think it's quite hilarious. In one of the scenes here we go. Just the numbers here, right? Durability, 68,225. Ranged attack, 61,000. The power is 457,000. It's like, I saw those numbers and I just sort of chuckled that that's there. This game doesn't have a specific release date, but it is aiming for later in the year. We also got a new trailer for Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time. This is the sequel to the Fantasy Life game from the 3DS. What is interesting about it is they specified why it's called Fantasy Life I. The I apparently stands for island because the game takes place on an island. It also stands for internet because there is multiplayer in it, so you can have friends run around with you. And there was a third reason why it was called I, and it was just sort of a silly thing. The big thing with this game, obviously, though, is that you can change jobs at any point. So you can be, a main adventurer initially, then you can be a cook, then you can be a carpenter, then you can be a farmer. And as you change jobs, your perception of what the game can present to you will be different. That is a Switch exclusive, and it is coming later in the year. We got a new teaser trailer for Inazuma 11 Victory Road. This is the first game that won't be on 3DS. The 3DS was sort of where all these games, kicked off. Interestingly, this game's been in development for a number of years. It was supposed to be released like back in 2018. So it's definitely, been a while. The game will launch in Japan this year, but it won't launch in the West until early next year. The interesting thing for this, though, is that they are doing an anime adaptation for it, so there'll be a lot more going into it. One of the big things they went through in the trailer was that there are 4,500 or so characters that you can interact with. A lot of the characters come from previous games in the series, so if you have any sort of connection to any of the other games, there being the characters popping back up again is probably going to be a very, very cool thing for you. If you have no connection, this is the first time you're hearing about the series. Learning that there's 4,500 characters that you can talk to is likely going to be very, very overwhelming. The big thing though is that your interaction with them isn't that you have to meet every single one of them. It's that you can use them to build up your own personal team and undertake matches with them there. There's a lot more going on to it. They have said they'll have more information soon about the game, so we just have to wait for that one. The one that's probably the most interesting for them is Deca Police. Deca Police is Inazuma 11 Victory Road is a Switch exclusive. I forgot to mention that one. Deca Police is Switch, PSC, PS4, and PS5. In the footage they showed off during their Level 5 Vision event, it was all PlayStation footage. The buttons on the screen gave it away. With the game, though, the big thing is that the gameplay takes place in two worlds, the real world and a digital recreation of that world. Excuse me. With the real world, it's an open city. You go around exploring, you solve crimes. In order to find clues, you'll have to enter the digital world. And as you enter the digital world, you'll be able to sort of explore things in ways you can't really do in the real world. But then a mysterious hacker modifies the digital world, which they call Decasim. And in the modifications, that's when your character gets turned into a cat, and your friends get turned into other animals. And then that is where the bad guys that appear in the virtual world, which are their interpretations of the real world bad guys, they'll start having special powers and attacks, and that's where you'll sort of see the more fantasy style creatures. Both the trailers are worth watching if you're interested in sort of a crime solving RPG. The game looks great. It is, however, like on the PlayStation formats, it looks very, very, very good. So Switch may not be the best place to give that game a go. The art style they're going for does tend to scale quite well. It does work at a lower resolution. It does work at lower frame rates. We'll have to wait and see on that one though. They also provided a little bit more information on Professor Layton and the New World of Steam. Specifically that it takes place 1 year after the events of Unwound Future, which was sort of the last game where Luke left Professor Layton to go to America. Something has happened in the town of Bison's Theme, which is a new or Steam Bison, one of the two. It's a new town that's sort of a mecca for steam-powered machines. And Luke has been there for a year. He's been, helping people solve riddles, and he's got a bit of a reputation there now. Layton has made the jump across the pond from London to America to this new world, but he has no sort of pedigree here, so he's sort of the unknown. But there's something going on. That's why Luke has sent off a letter to Layton to say, "Hey, come have a look at this." The information, for this one, that's sort of really all we got. We did learn that the Japanese group Quizworks, they're sort of a YouTube-based group. They have been creating all new puzzles for the game. Whether or not they're all new puzzles is in completely original puzzles or just new versions of the same style of puzzles we've seen in all the other series and all the other games in the series, we'll have to wait and see. This one is the only game that is 2024 for everyone. So at the end of the year, at the end of the presentation, they said that these games will release in 2023 and beyond. So all 4 previous games are all 2023 in Japan. Some of them are 2023 here, but Layton is 2024 for all of them. So just something to be aware of. Moving on to the other showcase event, because it was a busy week. We had the Nacon Connect event this morning, and there were a bunch of game updates there. So Nacon may not be a publisher name that you know very well. They tend to stick in the sort of, I won't say the weird sports, but they stick with the non-traditional sports, and they sort of do these random games with other companies all the time. So Nacon themselves, they actually have a connection here in Australia. They bought Big Ant Studios a while ago. Big Ant are the folks that do the cricket games, the tennis games, and all that, and they do pop up in this with 2 of their games as well. But in terms of what they're offering, bunch of sports games, bunch of sim games, bunch of adventure games, all that sort of stuff. So we'll go through it. Now, I sort of just put this list in the order that I thought was most interesting. Some of them have release dates, some of them are out now. Some of them were just, hey, this is a new trailer showing what it is. So we got a new look at the Lord of the Rings Gollum. It's not dated yet. It was dated for September 1st last year, and then they delayed it, like 6 or 7 weeks before it was supposed to come out, to an unspecified date in 2023. When they said that, hey, we're hosting this event and Gollum will be there, many people were hoping for a date, but that does not seem to be the case. The story trailer, again, I won't play it because it does sort of touch on some Lord of the Rings bits, and I know some people are very particular about that. The trailer does highlight more of the game, so there's more locations, more characters that you interact with. The one thing that I thought was interesting is at the end of the trailer, Switch is included, because we knew this game was coming to Switch. It was announced ages ago, but in the official press release, Switch is not mentioned at all. So that's kind of a bit of a weird thing that they've got going on there. The other one that was there, which again, it's an age-restricted video, but that is RoboCop Rogue City. This is being done by Teon. Teon were the folks that did Terminator Resistance a while ago. This game is coming in September this year to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Initially, it was also coming to Switch. It seems to have lost that platform between when it was announced last year and now. The footage they showed, it's very, I won't say rough, but it doesn't look especially fun. So, one of the elements is that a Robocop walks into this building and he uses, his technology to scan the enemies or scan people in there. And then the gunplay just looks kind of weak. It doesn't look that exciting. The only thing that's really cool is Peter Keller, the actor who played Robocop in the movies, is back voicing him in the game. So that'll be, making it a little more authentic. We also got a new look at Gangs of Sherwood. This is a multiplayer Robin Hood style game, but it's not traditional Robin Hood. There's a lot of like steampunk-esque, fantasy design going on. This is coming sometime in the spring months, so later this year for PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Raven's Watch is a new roguelike game coming from the folks that did Curse of the Dead Gods, which was another roguelike. Curse of the Dead Gods had the unfortunate, release timing of coming out essentially a few months after Hades did. The reason why it did well, it was a very good game. The reason why it sort of got attention is because it was like Hades for PlayStation and Xbox. Obviously it's not Hades. I'm not saying it was that, but it was that style of gameplay. And obviously those platforms didn't have it, so it sort of found a little niche there. This is the next game from them. It is launching on PC in early access on April 6th. There is no word on if it's coming to other platforms. When it's coming to other platforms. When it does release in full, it will hit PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. We got a new trailer for Ad Infinitum and a release date change. So Ad Infinitum is a horror game. That's why the video is not showing here. You must go and view it on YouTube because it requires an age gate. It's coming to PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. It was due to release in April. In order to just give the developers more time, they've delayed it till September. But given this game is being done by a very small studio, and it was initially started as a passion project to see if they could make something, because they wanted to make games, a few extra months is probably a good thing for it. We got a release date for War Hospital. War Hospital is, if you've played 2 Point Hospital recently, or Theme Hospital back in the day, it is a hospital game, but it's set in World War One. And one of the big things is that at the, once you've successfully treated patients, if you have the resources to treat them, you then have to either, send them home if they're too damaged, too injured, send them off to a proper hospital for more treatment, or send them back to the front line. And if you send a patient off to the front line, there's a chance they may come back with a more severe injury, or they may die, and you may find out about that. So you have to manage both the patients and the resources while also maintaining the fact that you're in a war zone. A lot of stuff going on there. That's coming out on August 31st. I'll be blunt with this one. We got a trailer for TT Isle of Man Right on the Edge 3. This is coming to all platforms, so PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC. It's coming in sometime in May. There's no set date for it yet, but it is coming sometime then. If you've got TT Isle of Man Right on the Edge 2 or TT Isle of Man, which is the first one, do not buy this game. It is no value in buying this game if you own either of the other two. The big thing with this is that it is based on the Isle of Man, which is an actual location in Wales, and they have a motorbike race there. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because, you know, a lot of these roads are narrow English roads, and some of them go along the coast, so they go along sort of cliff edges. This game is essentially would be the same as if there was a Bathurst racing game released every year, where it was all about racing around Bathurst. Right? No other tracks, just Bathurst. If you've not played them, they're great racing games. The actual mechanics and the controls are beautiful, but the location's the same over and over and over and over again. So if you are a fan of the series, you're probably going to get it anyway. If you checked out 2 and thought it was great, you probably don't need to worry about 3. So that's coming to all sometime in May. There's no specific date for it yet. Session Skate Sim launched a while ago for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. When it was first announced, it was announced for Switch, but when they sort of started pushing, you know, hey, the game's coming out on this date, Switch wasn't mentioned. Switch was not mentioned. They basically all but abandoned it. With that, most people just assumed the game was cancelled because even the website didn't list a Switch version of it. Turns out that is not the case. The game is now out in North America, and it is launching for us here in Australia next Thursday on the 16th of March. So the game's out on other platforms now, but it is coming to Switch next week. Another one of those is Train Life, a railway simulator. It released on all the other platforms last year. It just came to Switch today as part of the presentation. Transport Fever 2 Console Edition. This is Transport Fever 2 that was on PC a while ago. It just got a console release for PlayStation and Xbox today. Just another one of those sort of, you know, not a shadow drop, but it's just there. Clash Artifacts of Chaos also released today for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And as part of the showcase, they did release a gameplay overview that basically shows off your character fighting through. It's not quite a roguelike. The best way I could describe it is probably rogue-like meets Sifu. So it's a lot of melee combat. And then if you die, you have to go back and all sorts of stuff. And if you die, you wake up at night, and you've got to trek back to your body to sort of rejoin it. But at night, everything's more dangerous and more deadly. So if you do die, there's a big risk about all that. So that's out now for all platforms except Switch. So yeah, that's something to look into. And then these are the 4 games. They sort of just dumped them together, and they did this because they never show anything off for some of these sports games they make. So this is interesting. So TT Isle of Man Race to the Edge 3 isn't included in this. They also do the WRC games as well. They have for a number of years. They don't include those in their sports brand. They just include these games. So Tour de France 2023, it's coming sometime this year to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. That is just a bike riding game where you go through the events of the Tour de France. Pro Cycling Manager 2023 is coming on June 8th to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. It spreadsheets the game. It's like the F1 Manager game last year from Frontier. There's obviously Pro Cycling Manager games from before from this series. There's been Football Manager is another one of them. So it's more about managing all the different aspects of a team, of a cyclist, and the mechanics and the health advisors and all the bits and pieces that go along with that. So we got a little bit of footage for both those games. Rugby 24 is coming on September 7th to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And Tiebreak, official game of the ATP and WTA, is coming sometime this year, again to all the platforms. So none of these sports games are hitting Switch. Rugby 24 and Tiebreak are being done by Big Ant Studios down in Melbourne. The problem is there's no footage on these games. So if I play this trailer, right, this is a 48-second trailer, and it includes 4 games within it. So this is Tour de France 2023. It's a bike riding game, pretty straightforward stuff. This is the Tiebreak game, right? So this is literally a tennis game. That's it. That's the official trailer so far for Tiebreak, right? Now we're back to this, and you might think that was, again, more Tour de France, but this is the Cycling Manager. That's fine. That is what it is. And then this is the Rugby 24 trailer. Not a single thing in that has anything to do with the actual game. It's just a bunch of images. So the reason why that annoys me is for two reasons. The first is there's no reason to show off anything from a game if you have nothing to show, right? Nintendo did it years ago with Metroid Prime 4. They showed off a logo and went, hey, we're working on this game. And we went, oh my god, that's great. Fast forward, we're now, 6 years later, and we still haven't seen anything on this game. So a logo doesn't help, right? It just builds unnecessary expectations. The other thing too is that the rugby games that Big Ant have done haven't set the world on fire in the past. Rugby 23, they didn't reveal, so Big Ant weren't the developers of that one, but they didn't reveal anything on that game until the week before it released. So they had the game, they were talking about it, they were promoting it, hey, you can order it and all this sort of stuff, but they didn't show anything. When that game released, it was as basic as you could get. And when I say basic, I don't mean it was missing features or anything. I just mean there was nothing fancy about it. Metroid Prime 4 in June is definitely a possibility, Tabs, though I would expect the end of June, not around E3. Anyway, so Rugby 23 didn't have anything going for it, right? It wasn't that interesting. Rugby 24 is likely to be the same, which is why we're not seeing anything now. And again, Tiebreak, this is the third tennis game that this studio has made in a number of years. So we had the AO Tennis series, AO Tennis 2, I think it was called, way back in the day. I'm going to have to look it up because I really want to know what it was. Where are we? AO Tennis Tour. AO Tennis 2 was in 2020, and then that same year they released Tennis World Tour 2. Alright, so they did 2 tennis games in 1 year, and now they're back with another tennis game, which will feature most of the same venues, most of the same characters or players, right? And then they've called it a different name again. Now I get why they're not calling it AO Tennis, because there was definitely connected to the Australian Open, and Tiebreak does sound like a cooler sort of name for it, but it's just like, it's interesting that this is the third tennis game in 3 years, and it's the third name for it, as all the same developer and publisher. It'd be like if every year EA renamed their American football game to something different. So this is interesting. They also apparently have AFL 23 on the way this year for everything but Switch. The studio has basically abandoned Switch, which, given their track record on some of the performance that they've had on Switch titles, is not surprising, but it's a bit sad that it's happened. No, so the AO Tennis 2 and Tennis Tour, those were both Big Ant. So, and they're both published by Nacon. So yeah, that's why things get really weird with this studio. But yeah, so yeah, as I said, 48-second trailer, and that includes the whole, hey, Nacon Sports is a brand, and yeah, we didn't get to see much on all 4 of those games. So including those 4 titles, there were 15 games shown off during the showcase. As I said, some are available now, one's coming next week, but the bulk of them don't have dedicated release dates yet. They just still have release years, or some windows like spring. It was an interesting event. They didn't have anyone talking. It was basically just, hey, Nacon Connect, and the title card went in, and there was a game behind it. So that's interesting there when you consider it. The last story we want to talk about is the fact that Starfield has a release date, and it is not what people were hoping for. So last year, during the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, so that was the official name of it last year, Todd Howard, stood up there and talked about Starfield. This is where we got the first gameplay reveal on it. And it was just a few weeks before then that they said, hey, we will not be releasing the game on November 11th, 2022. At that showcase, the big thing that Phil Spencer said about the games that were being shown off in that event was that they would all be available within 12 months of it. So essentially, June 12, 2023 was the cutoff. that every game in that showcase will be available to play by then. For the most part, some of them they've stuck with that, right? We're getting release dates in that same frame. Everything's hunky-dory there. The only two that were sort of questionable about that was Forza Motorsport, the reboot of the series, and Starfield. Motorsport, because after we saw that, then we hadn't seen anything on it again until the developer direct back in January. And Starfield, for the same reason, essentially. We rarely saw anything of it. Their Constellation program was doing a lot of deep dives. I say deep dives, but they were doing conversations with developers on things. But they still weren't talking. They weren't showing off the game, right? So early this morning, we learned that. Early yesterday morning, we learned that Starfield will be releasing on September 6th for both Xbox Series XS and PC. It will be obviously in Game Pass as a Microsoft published title. What is interesting is that the game is not reaching that 12-month window, right? It's blowing through that. Now you could argue that the game wasn't dated to release back then, but Xbox came out and said, hey, all these games, including Starfield, will be out by this time. That is now not the case. Obviously, I'm not gonna harp on it too much. It's just a bit of a sad thing that Xbox made a promise and they've sort of broken it. And if they're breaking something as simple as that, who knows what they'll do next. Moving away from that bit of news, though, during the reveal of the date, which unfortunately is September 6th, 2023, because the date they put up 9/6/23, which for the rest of the world that isn't America, where the date format is day, month, year, not month, day, year, which is why March 10 in America is Mario Day. So I ran on that a little earlier. That's the whole thing with me and America doing things differently just to be different. But so it is September 6th, not the 9th of June, just to be clear on that one. They did confirm that there will be a Starfield Direct. That is the official name. It is not anything other than that. It is just the Starfield Direct. And that will take place on June 11th in Los Angeles, straight after the Xbox Game Showcase. So we knew that Xbox were hosting a showcase. We knew it was coming. We didn't know the specifics of it. And to a degree, we still don't know the specifics of it. But again, because it is coming straight before the Starfield one, we can, sort of make some things. So, the Starfield Direct, and again, that is what they're calling it. It's not the Starfield Developer Direct. They've just dropped the developer entirely, and it's just the Direct. It is happening on June 11th in Los Angeles, which means it'll be June 12th here. So with the timings that I've got here in the events calendar that we run, I put 3 a.m. on Monday, June 12th for us, because that is the time that Xbox have done their showcase. Every year they've done it. It's always 3 a.m. Generally 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. That is a possibility. That could be why they've dropped the word developer from it. So 3 a.m. for the Xbox showcase. In the thing from Todd Howard, he just called it the Xbox Game Showcase. Last year it was the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so if the Xbox One is at 3 a.m. and they generally run for around 90 minutes, 95 minutes, that would put the Starfield Direct, at say 4:45, 5 a.m. So that's sort of the time frames that I would expect to plan around for it, just because that's what we've had in the past. Not confirmed. They've not issued any timings yet. It's very, very early to be saying about the times these things are happening. But again, historically, we've seen the Xbox, showcases, the Xbox E3 events happening at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time on the Sunday, which equates to 3 a.m. On the Monday here. They've also done a few in-person events over the last couple of years. Obviously not 2020, but they did it last year. They had the Fortress venue in Melbourne. The one in Sydney is very close to opening. So they may host some, in-person events there as well, should people want to check it out. While I have the calendar up, there is the Media Indie Exchange Spring Showcase happening next Saturday at 4 a.m. This is an indie-focused showcase. MIX stands for Media and Indie Exchange. It's basically a way for indie developers who maybe, are not on the radar for Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo to sort of come together to have their games, put them in a space and have people come and play them. So it's definitely indie focused. The Future Games Show Spring Showcase is happening on the 24th of March at 9 p.m. At night. So the Future Games Showcase, they'll have 40 titles in there. So we'll see a few things. They've already confirmed some games in there. The big thing with these Future Games events is that they have 2 hosts, and it's generally people from games. So, I think the first one was Nolan North, and I can't think of her name. But she played, so we had, Nathan Drake and Elena from Uncharted. There was somebody from the Resident Evil games way back when. The one that they did late last year had Christopher Judge, so Kratos, and Danielle, I can't think of her surname, starts with a B, but she played Freya in God of War, so they had those 2 hosting it. The one coming up this time will have Aerith and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth hosting it. Their names elude me, their actual names, the performers' names elude me, but so it's basically Aerith and Cloud will be hosting the Future Game Show on the 24th. Back into Starfield though, this is obviously the new date is September. Between now and the June Starfield Direct, apart from a few Constellation videos, do not expect to see anything more. It is highly unlikely we will see anything other than the Constellation, just because the Starfield Direct is likely to be their blowout event. If you remember a few years ago, they went all in on Fallout 4 at the Bethesda showcase. I'm trying to think what year it was now. And that was when they announced the game, and they did like a 20-25 minute deep dive into it, and then they released it that November, right? So I wouldn't expect anything more for Starfield between now and that Direct, because that will be when that's their chance to showcase everything they've been doing. Even in the video, Todd Howard said that there's plenty of stuff they've not even talked about yet, so that could be quite interesting. With all that done, we're going to just run through the games that are coming out over the next 7 days. Again, obviously, we tend not to get games releasing over the weekends, but with things like the Media Indie Exchange happening next weekend, that could change. This week coming though, there is one game, I will mention it. It's launching in America on PlayStation. It's Hot Wheels Rift Rally by Valon Studios. This game is not marked to be releasing here yet because Valon are self-publishing this one. What is interesting about this is that the technology they're using is the same technology they used for Mario Kart Home Circuit, but Nintendo helped develop that tech. So I do wonder if they're licensing that tech from Nintendo for Hot Wheels, or if they're doing something else. But Mario Kart Home Circuit and Hot Wheels Rift Rally are the exact same things. One just has Mario elements in it, one has Hot Wheels elements. Obviously, one is on Switch, one is on PlayStation. With the Switch version, you actually had to have your Switch you couldn't have it docked. With Hot Wheels Rift Rally, it is just done all through your mobile device. But again, there's no set release date for it here in Australia, so just be aware of that one. But on the 14th, we will get The Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. Hot Wheels Mario Kart Edition. Would it be Hot Wheels Mario Kart or Mario Kart Hot Wheels? Ponder that one. Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure is coming. I said this is the one that was never released in the West before, but then a bunch of fans got together and translated everything text-wise. Then Niz America saw the work they'd done, said, hey, you guys have done a great job. We'd like to pay you for the work and use it as the official the basis of the official translation. So that's now finally coming out here. I said Valheim will be entering Xbox Game Preview. It is already in early access on PC. This is just the same thing, but for consoles. The 16th, we'll see the release of the Dark Pictures Switchback VR for PlayStation VR 2. This is the roller coaster-esque type horror game from Supermassive Game. Sorry. I don't know how it directly connects with the Dark Pictures anthology games that have already released. or if they're just using that as a way to sort of tack on a bit of branding to get some attention. Who knows? Next Friday, obviously, the 17th is the big one. We have WWE 2K23 releasing for all platforms but Switch. But Switch owners are not left out, as Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and The Lost Demon will release then. Bayonetta Origins got a demo earlier in the week, and all progress from the demo will transfer across to the full game should you pick it up. That's sort of it for the week. There's not much happening next week, so it's a very quiet one. There will be information tomorrow morning about a bunch of Lego sets, because Mario Day in America will be tomorrow for us. So there'll be a bunch of that sort of stuff there. But yeah, that is our show for the week. For all the details about the stories in this week's show and those that didn't make it in, be sure to visit Maxi-Geek.au and follow us on all your favourite social media platforms. Thank you for watching, and until we see you online next time, happy gaming.